Well, it is one of the final diplomatic acts of the Biden administration. This morning, 2 Americans detained in Afghanistan by the Taliban are now free after a prisoner swap.
Ryan Corbett and William Wallace McKenty are back home this morning after an exchange for Khan Mohammed. Khan Mohammed is a member of the Taliban serving 2 life sentences in federal prison on drug and narcoterrorism charges. Khan was convicted in 2008.
Joining us this morning with insight on the exchange is foreign policy expert and the executive director of the nonprofit organization Defense of Democracies, Jonathan Schanzer. We appreciate you joining us. Jonathan Corbett is 42 years old and was taken captive after the fall of the Afghanistan government to the Taliban in 2021. McKenty is 69 years old. His family asked our government to keep his identity private. Can you break down for us the behind-the-scenes negotiations to get these Americans home?
Well, I think we need to understand something here, that this is the Qatari government that has facilitated all of this. And I think they are also, if you look at the last week, they've also been heavily involved in the release of the Israeli women from the Gaza Strip that had been previously held by Hamas. The key to understanding all of this right now is the fact that the Qataris act as American allies on the one hand, but are essentially state sponsors of terror on the other. We've got Taliban offices in Qatar. You got Hamas offices in Qatar. They've been sponsors of both of these terrorist organizations. And now I think with Donald Trump, coming back into office, the fear began to grow on the part of the Qataris, on the part of the Taliban, on the part of Hamas, that perhaps the holding of American hostages was not going to go over well with the new president, so they've jumped and they've taken action. I'm glad to see it, but the question is, why didn't the Qataris facilitate this years ago? They should have done it years ago. They should not have had to wait until Donald Trump came to office. Very
interesting point there, and thank you for that context for our viewers this morning. I do want to talk, in fact, about that man, Khan Mohammed. He is a violent jihadist. We know that. He was swapped for the Americans. He has helped the Taliban get rockets to attack a U.S. military base in Afghanistan. He was also known as one of the biggest drug smugglers our country has had to deal with, and a key funder of the Taliban. In your assessment, your best assessment, was this a good deal? What are your thoughts about this deal? Obviously, we want our fellow Americans home, but break down the merits of this deal.
Look, we have a policy dating back to the era of Richard Nixon that we don't negotiate with terrorists, but we do. Let's be clear, right? I mean, we've clearly negotiated with the Taliban. We negotiated our surrender and our withdrawal from the country, which was, of course, a disastrous withdrawal overseen by the Biden administration. But here we continue to work with the Taliban and to negotiate over the release of a narco-terrorist. This is a man, just to be very clear, that was able to funnel millions and millions of dollars to the Taliban regime, which was then converted into cash and weapons. The cash would be spent on salaries and the daily functions of the government. The weapons, of course, being used against the United States or perhaps even internally against opposition to the Taliban government. So we've bought into this, and I think it's highly problematic. I understand the joy of the families. And by the way, there may be some backstories here that we're not allowed to learn about. These are individuals that may have been involved in sensitive operations as it relates to U.S. policy in the region. So maybe there were extenuating circumstances. There could have been a real urgent need to facilitate this. But that doesn't mean that all is okay. We have started down the road, actually for many years now, of negotiating with terrorist groups and giving them what they need as they have taken Western hostages or hostages from some of our allies, and we continue to negotiate with them. That's an incentive for the continued taking of hostages, and that's something that we need to try to avoid at all costs.
Yeah, and we've actually heard President Trump echo those sentiments during his first administration. It'll be interesting to see how he plays this now in his second administration. So we will be watching that now that he's added to the mix in all of these conversations. Jonathan Schanzer from the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, we thank you for your time this morning. Thank you.